Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Lavasser with you. And today we have a lesson for Memorial Day, a day that we honor the veterans of the United States military. And so maybe some of you are noticing that there's a flag, or my drawing of a flag, over my right shoulder. And that flag is not the American flag, but that is an important part of America, and that's the flag of the island of Puerto Rico, which is, again, part of the United States. And people from Puerto Rico have been in the United States military for 100 years. And I'd like to talk about the group of Puerto Rican soldiers that are known as the Borinqueneers. The island of Puerto Rico is called Boricua in the Native American language. And so the people from that island often refer to themselves as Borinquen. And so the Borinqueneers were a military unit from that island. So please take that assignment out now, and let's get ready to read an article about the Borinqueneers. Okay, here we are. This is the assignment. The top says functional language analysis assignment. Academic content is current events. Memorial Day is coming up. And this is language of social studies. And you could consider this a cultural lesson too, because we are appreciating and learning about the culture from Puerto Rico, the Borinquen culture. So here is a link to a video about the Borinqueneers. And so this topic could be used at Memorial Days or Veterans Day. Here we see the video that you're watching now. If you've clicked here, you're watching the video, and I'll take you through the lesson. And as we go through the different parts of the lesson, you may want to stop this video that you're watching now and complete sections of the assignment or watch some of the other videos. This link underneath here is the link to the article that I've used to write make the lesson with. The byline, that's the line, whenever you have something in the news, whoever wrote it, it says by and then their name, and that's called the byline. So here the byline is Denise Olivia Valez. So let's read the instructions for section 1 and let's start the lesson. Read this news article and highlight using functional language analysis. Follow the key on the right. Here's your analysis key down here. Answer with 1 or 2 words the questions on the left. Number the bullets so you can refer to them. And here's where you can find the link to this article. So we're going to find the processes, the action words in pink. We're going to highlight the vocabulary terms, any words that we think of vocabulary terms in yellow, any words we want to learn. And then we're going to underline any textual information about the Borinqueneers with blue, unless you're at home doing this on pen and paper. And then if you just have a black pen or a pencil, go ahead and underline there. And here we have the Borinqueneers Congressional Gold Medal, which was given to the Puerto Rico's 65th Infantry Regiment by President Obama. So I think I'm going to start with yellow. I'm going to go and I'm going to open up my draw, and then I'm going to get my yellow highlighter out. And I'm going to start with any vocabulary terms that I want to learn about. So let's start. A salute to our Puerto Rican vets who, yes, are American citizens. A salute to our Puerto Rican vets who, yes, are American citizens. That's the title of our article. A lot of people don't know that people from Puerto Rico are American citizens. That's the title there. As a daughter of a Tuskegee Airman and the wife of a Vietnam-era Puerto Rican veteran, I know all too well the historical racism that erasure faced by U.S. Citizens who happened to be Black or who spoke Spanish or who were from native nations, like the code talkers. They all served in our military, and decades after their military service, finally gained the hard-won acclaim for their deeds. This was also true for the Borinqueneers, members of a segregated Puerto Rican regiment. Let's do regiment too. That's a group of soldiers, and I don't know how big it is, quite frankly, but we can look that up. The 65th Infantry Regiment, infantry means foot soldiers, I do know that word. Of the 65th Infantry Regiment has served the United States during times of combat, including World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. During the Korean War, the Puerto Rican regiment, known as the Borinqueneers, earned 1 Medal of Honor, 9 Distinguished Service Crosses, approximately 250 Silver Stars, and more than 600 Bronze Stars, and more than 2,700 Purple Hearts. These are all different honors or medals that you can win. Medal of Honor is the highest military medal. It's given by Congress. That's exceptional deeds of heroic. I don't know exactly. We can look that up too. Distinguished Service Cross. I'm not sure what that is. Silver Stars and Bronze Stars are given for bravery, and Purple Hearts are for people who were injured or wounded during the war. Their nickname, new bullet, their nickname, the Borinqueneers, was derived from the original Taino Indian name for the island, Borinquen. I wrote about the efforts to get them a congressional medal in the Borinqueneers award them the gold medal back in 2013. Though Veterans Day is set aside to salute our vets, living and dead, and Memorial Day honors the fallen, I sit here wondering how long it is going to take before a huge chunk of our citizens here on the mainland are going to accept that Puerto Ricans are American citizens. I wonder how much that ignorance contributes to the seemingly indifference to the treatment of Puerto Rico by Donald Trump and his administration, and the lack of an outcry about the upcoming Medicaid fiscal cliff, which could strip close to 900,000 citizens on the island of their medical coverage. This story is not about the ongoing debate around the status of Puerto Rico, independence versus statehood, or enhanced territorial status. This is simply a statement of fact. Far too many people here on the US mainland still don't know that Puerto Ricans are US citizens. So let's number the paragraphs so we can talk about them. And I'm never very good at writing with these, but I'll do my best. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's 4 paragraphs there. Let's read a couple of these questions. Maybe we can answer them. What is the name of the 65th Infantry Regiment made up of soldiers from Puerto Rico? Well, we know what the name of that group is. It's been told us many times. It's right here, the Borinqueneers. So you can fill in the Borinqueneers there. List the American wars in which Puerto Rican soldiers fought with the 65th Infantry Regiment. So there's a list of wars in paragraph 2, and you can list them there. And I'll let you answer the rest of those questions. Let's go through and in paragraph 1, And let's find the processes, and we'll do those in pink, the action words. As a daughter of a Tuskegee Airman and the wife of a Vietnam-era Puerto Rican veteran, I know all too well the historical racism and the erasure faced by U.S. citizens who happened to be Black or who spoke Puerto Ricans or who spoke Spanish or were from native nations like the code talkers. Were Native Americans. Okay, that's a tricky little sentence there. And I found another vocabulary word I want to add, erasure. All right, so the Tuskegee Airmen, they were a group of combat airmen in the Second World War. They were an all African-American air group, and you can look them up on Google. I believe that one of their accomplishments was never losing a bomber to enemy aircraft. And I got to meet one of the Tuskegee Airmen when I was in Tanzania many years ago. Vietnam era, thus the era from 1964 to 1974. Historical racism. So erasure means that not only not the historical racism of America, but also like they were erased. No one, it was almost like they were erased from being US citizens, or that African Americans or people who spoke Spanish weren't included in the story of these wars. They were kind of erased. Or Native Americans, like the code talkers, and the code talkers were Navajo people who, I guess, based on their language, you'll have to double check these facts, but I think it was based on their language. The structure of their language is so different than other languages that they could speak over the radio, and the Japanese in the World War II couldn't break the code of that language. Acclaim means to win fame or to be recognized. Let's continue with the pink. Sorry, I got lost on doing the vocabulary. They all served in our military, and decades after military service finally gained hard-won acclaim for their deeds. So we've got the action words, the processes, and as you know, if we want to break this down now into subject and predicate, it's easy to do that because we've got the verbs, and usually the processes let us know where the subject ends and the predicate begins. Let's do a little bit of the second paragraph too. This was true for the Borinqueneers, members of a segregated Puerto Rican regiment. Look how, again, there's one thing I'm always talking to kids about is, look, they introduced this new word, the Borinqueneers, and then what did they do immediately after they introduced that word? They defined it for you. Classic writing style. Introduce something new, define it right afterwards. That's part of the Peel plot process. Present the idea, explain or define the idea. And then they go on to give information or examples of the wars that they fought in. These all follow that same pattern. And we can look up the roles that the Borinqueneers played in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and we can look up exactly how you win these awards. What I'd like you to do is finish finding the action or the processes in paragraphs 3 and 4. And I'd like you to find and define any of these words here. Go ahead down, make sure that you've answered the questions on the left. And then here, many of those words will reappear and you'll be asked to define them. Okay. So you can use Google, or more importantly, you can use the text that you can find the definitions in the text. And I've already given you a claim. Infantry, I've given you that. Those are foot soldiers. Taino Indians, those are the Native Americans from Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and Haiti that hold those two islands. And then we have a few sentences here. We're gonna, it doesn't have to be a full paragraph, but we'll jointly construct together the Tuskegee Airmen, the Code Talkers, and we'll elaborate a little bit who they are. So I've kind of done that for you. So, oops, that's why that's doing that. Let's kind of work on one of those together. So I'm just going to color that in, and I'm going to highlight that rather, and I'm going to put a color to it, and then I'm going to find a new font, and so that when I write in that font, you'll be able to see it. So let's present the first ideas, the Tuskegee Airmen. So we're presenting the Tuskegee Airmen and Code Talkers were heroes of World War II. So I've introduced my two topics, Tuskegee Airmen and Code Talkers. I presented that. Now I'm going to explain or define that. The Tuskegee, 1E, Airmen were pilots in world, let's just go with WW2. And when you do WW2, you use the Greek, the Roman numerals II. In the European, who flew successful combat missions in Europe. The Code Talkers were radio men in the Japanese theater. I mean, it's the part of the war that happened in Japan or in the Pacific Islands. Who, and now I want you to finish that, who or what. So you've got your present, Tuskegee Airmen and Code Talkers. We're now doing the explain. And so you want to give an example, maybe of them. And so maybe you could look that up online. And then you want to write one more sentence, which is going to kind of like tie it all together. Because we're not going to link to the next paragraph. So we want to link all the sentences together. So but you might say something, let's write the last sentence together. These American heroes deserve to be honored and remembered. Semicolon. We are all grateful for their service. Period. So that kind of links the whole paragraph together. So you've presented, you're explaining, you're giving an example, but in this case, we could just do two examples, I think. An example of the Tuskegee Airmen, an example of the Code Talkers, And we have a very simple paragraph, a very simple explanation of a discussion of the Tuskegee Airmen and the Code Talkers. Remember, you have to finish this here, giving us a little bit more information about the Code Talkers. And I'm going to change the color here to, I guess, a blue. And I'm going to change the font to, how about Britannic Bold? So we want to discuss the 65th Regiment known as the Borinqueneers. So I'm going to start off introducing it. There have been soldiers from Puerto Rico fighting for America for over 100 years. And we know that because World War I was in 1919 for Americans. It started in 1914 for the Europeans, but for Americans, it started much later. That's when we became involved. So that's over 100 years ago. Now we can talk about the Borinqueneers. So there's our introduction. Now we can explain the soldiers from, oops. Oh my goodness. Now I'm gonna fix that. The soldiers from, and from where? From Puerto Rico were called the Borinqueneers. So you can do a sentence finishing that. Maybe you can give an example of some of the awards that they won, and then you can say something about this Memorial Day. And on, how about instead of this Memorial Day, every, that's even more respectful, I think, every Memorial Day, capital M, and Veterans Day. We need to remember to honor our veterans from the island of maybe they'll give me a spelling of Boricua. There we go. And so now you know what Boricua is, and maybe somebody who reads this the first time won't know, but we can say that every Memorial Day and Veterans Day, we need to remember to honor our veterans from the island of Boricua. And so why don't you fill in those? We've got an information, we got a presentation sentence. Now we need an explanation and an example sentence. So we can, the first sentence, you can talk about the Borinqueneers. And the second sentence, you can find some information here to talk about, maybe what wars they were in, or some other information that you see there. And so this one here, maybe this is from a couple of years ago, so this may not be current. So let's just skip this one for this year, and then next year I'll change that section there. Actually, let's do this one. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to paste it in right here. Based on our experience, based on your experience, discuss and elaborate your opinion whether or not most Americans understand that Puerto Ricans are American citizens. Work independently. So you now have a writing assignment there. You now have a writing assignment there, and I'm going to take these lines out. And I think that you can give that with a Peel explanation too. So discuss that with your friends. Based on your experience, discuss and elaborate your opinion whether or not most Americans understand that Puerto Ricans are American citizens. There you go. Here's your assignment. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your hard work. And let's be sure to in our minds and in our hearts, thank the veterans who don't always get enough credit, like the Borinqueneers and the Tuskegee Airmen and the Code Talkers, as well as all of the other veterans that have really allowed us to have the freedoms that we have in this country. All right. I look forward to seeing you again.